Now we're going to give our little jig cutter here, our dominoes cutting jig and our square part cutting jig a new name. This is the actual name. It's called a miter box. And the reason we're calling it a miter box is we're going to make a miter joint, which is a 45-degree angle joint using this box. So there's a couple of ways you can mark this. One is you can take a square like this that has a 45-degree angle on it, and you can set it on the board like that, tight, and you can draw a line across the angle like that. That's one way to do it. If you don't have one that does a 45-degree, you can simply make a square. And what you want to do is you want to figure out how wide your trough is here. So this is 2 7/8, and I want to measure back. I want to create one line, first of all, like this. I create one line like this. It's a nice straight line. And then I want to measure over 2 7/8 from that line. I'm going to burn a whole inch here. Burn a whole 10 inches here to make it easier to measure. So I burn the 10 right there. And I measure 12 7/8, which would be 2 7/8 minus 10. Okay, so 12 7/8 inches. And that right there is a square. If I put a square across this like this, okay, that's a square. Okay, now if I take it and make sure I did that right. Let's see, 2 7/8, is that right? 2 7/8, 2 7/8. Okay, so now you can take any straight edge. You can take this little piece I've left over from your cutting before. If you lay it corner to corner of that line, just like that, okay, and draw a line on that edge. So, if you ever look at a square, all 4 corners are 90-degree corners, right? So if it's a square and you go across this way, you're exactly bisecting the 2 angles. That means if this is 90, then half of that's going to be 45. So I just created a 45-degree angle, okay? And the 45-degree angle is really important. It's used in most of your picture frames. Look at picture frames hanging up on your walls. They all have that 45-degree angle cut. That's referred to as a miter, M-I-T-E-R. And so now this box, by cutting the angle here, is going to be a miter box. Now that I've drawn that angle line, take my square again, and I'm going to run the line from that angle down on my piece like that. And we'll run it this way. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing or not right here. Can you see that okay? Yeah. Like that. Okay. Okay. This is gonna be a hard cut to do. You have to really focus on this one because probably somebody hold it for you would be good. You now have to cut across the angle like that. See what I'm doing? So the easy way to do this is take a piece of wood like this and lay it across your 2 lines, just like that. This table is not very good for working on, unfortunately, but you may have the same problem at home. So. Okay, I'm lined up with my 2 pencil lines there. I'm holding that board still. I'm laying the saw right against it. And I'm just gently sliding back and forth. Okay? Making sure the blade stays nice and straight to that board. And as I keep cutting, okay, I'm making the 45-degree miter cut. I'm far enough in now I can let go of the board and just make the cut. Okay, so there's my 45-degree. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create a different kind of stop. We're going to bring this stop right here. We're going to put it right up against the corner of the miter there. If you can see what I'm doing, right down there. You see it right there? I'm right up against the inside corner of the miter there with this stop. Okay, I'm going to tap that down tight. Okay, now 2 of my 8-inch pieces are going to get miters on them. I'm going to butt it against the stop. Get all these things out of your way. I'm a terrible messy worker, just so you know. All these things out of the way here. Okay, I butted that stop there. I'm going to go ahead and cut. so now I've got one side of my miter for my bench support. I'm going to flip it over. Now make sure you do this, if you're looking at that carefully right there, make sure you do this so that these angles are like opposite each other. See that? They want to be sort of opposite, not parallel to each other, which would be that way, but opposite each other, okay? And I'm sure there's a mathematic word for that. Okay? So, there is one of my seat supports. My benches will rest on these supports right here. Inch pieces you already made. Gonna put up against that stop like that, okay? And you're gonna cut them. Just like I'm doing here. Like I say, this wiggly table is gonna drive me nuts, but you may have the same problem. So if you have a clamp and you can clamp this thing to a table, it'll work ever so much better. I decided to show you without a clamp in case you don't. So you can see that it is difficult and you won't get frustrated with yourself and think you're a lousy carpenter. Because you're probably not. You're probably just having to struggle to learn this stuff. Okay. Alright, so now I got my 2 bench pieces here. See that? Alright, 1, 2. Now I need the 2 4-inch pieces. And these are my table supports. So I'm going to put those in the same way here, right there. I got watch your thumb here because it's getting really tight. See it? Up against the same stop. Okay, I cut that. Flip it over. It's also good to blow the dust out occasionally. So the piece goes right against the stop and doesn't come short. Got some dust inside there. There we go. Now the piece is nice and tight. Gonna cut again. Okay, there's one. Okay, there's the second half. You see how fast this is going. The first video was about 8 minutes cutting those other parts. This one's going to be a little bit longer because I marked out the joint and stuff. But even still, I mean, this is not an hour-long process. You can take a break whenever you want to. It doesn't matter. I can't because I got to keep videoing. All right. So there. Now I got my 2 4-inch supports for my tabletop. I got my 2 8-inch supports for my seats. And I got the 6s left here to do. And the 6s are a little bit different, okay? I'm going to cut one end. You see what I'm doing here? Yeah, okay. You're going to cut one end like that. Right now, you're going to flip it over. Not like this, not like these ones here, right? That are opposite each other. This one you're going to do parallel. So you can see how I got my angle here and my angle here. The angle's going to be parallel. The angle size is going to be parallel to each other. This is for the legs of your table. Okay? Okay. There's one. Six. Okay, now this is the last very weird cut. So you cut that with the angle in it. Now you're going to put it back on again, just like that. Can you see that? Putting it back so it's opposite this time. All right. And you're cutting it again. The reason we're doing that is so we can join the table legs together in the middle. Okay, there's one. You're only doing one side. So when it's done, it's going to look like that. Okay. See that? It's going to look just like that. Okay. So I do 2. Just butt it. Make sure you clamp it still. I don't know if you noticed or not, but when you're pushing the saw, you want to make sure that you put the piece on the other side against here. If you had a saw that you had to pull, you put the piece here, so you can pull backwards and it would stay against the sides. In this case, I'm using a push saw, so that's why I'm doing it the way I'm doing it. Okay, this is number 3. Okay, and this is number 4. All right, so now you can see this is the basic look of your table right here. Okay, just like that. And then the tabletop will sit on there, and the 2 bench seats will sit on there. Okay? Anybody see that? 8 8-inch parts. 2 8-inch parts with the miter. That's opposite. Okay? 2 4-inch parts with the miter. Okay? Then 4 6-inch parts with the miter on one end and that flipped over miter on the other end that allows them to lock together. If you got all these parts cut like this, then the next thing you're going to do is assemble your table. Okay? We'll take a break and get ready to plan to do that one. And there's your miter gauge with a 45 on it. Now, if you want to keep using it for anything, you could use the 45 here to cut pieces for a picture frame or any kind of a frame you want to build. Some of my students would make frames inside of frames inside of frames inside of frames. It'd be kind of cool looking for, cutting boards or just looking at stuff like that. So you'll have your own miter gauge now. If you have a handsaw at home, you'll be able to make any of the miters you want to make with that gauge. All right, see ya.